Welcome to Task Time Energy, the purpose-filled productivity podcast. My name is Scott Miller. I'll be your host. Thank you for joining us today. This is part 2 of our very first episode. Our guest is David Gold. Dave is a lawyer who founded a successful law firm that grew from very humble beginnings. For 15 years, he was the student of an unusual spiritual teacher from rural West Virginia. Dave is an entrepreneur who mentors other successful business owners. In part 1 of this episode, Dave and I were talking about finding purpose and opportunities in life by embracing the unknown. You know, it can be very scary. It can be very, very scary to step away from something that is secure, that is your comfort zone, that the step away from what you know and say, I'm going to do this without knowing what the outcome is going to be. But it's in the direction that I want. And I don't even know what the end result is going to be. I don't even know where this road is taking me, but this feels like the direction that I want to go. So let's go down that road and see what's there. Let's explore. And I know that's something that you've lived and experienced too.
First of all of us want to be able to convey to others to trust more, whether we're conscious of it or not. We want it with our kids. You know, things aren't going well and they're ready to give up. And you want to say, hey, son, daughter, just trust, just do this a little more. So it's not like this isn't important to us. We don't think about how much we're asking others to trust, and we want others to trust the people that we love and the people that are dependent upon us or our workplace or whatever. So the more trust, the better. And we can only convey as much trust as we've experienced. We only trust as much as we've allowed trust to prove itself. I don't know if that makes sense. In other words, I can't ask my daughter to do something that I haven't done myself. And incidentally, that was my road to vulnerability. When I realized that I couldn't ask my daughter to be more vulnerable than I was. And that really put me on an expedited path of vulnerability. And I've been on an expedited path of trust because more and more, my love for people, I just want them to let go a little bit. Feel it, life prove it's like I say the 3 steps I see my clients go from this to this to this. I want them to first take the bars down, let life come to them, then greet it with curiosity and wonderment, and then finally to be able to invite more and more in. So anyway, it's control. It's what gets in the way of us doing that. It is control. And the way that I've seen this I remember I called you up and I said, Scott, I know you're the time man, that's your expertise. You cornered the market on time, genius. I just had a realization about time. And I'll share that realization with you because so much of what I'm doing now is the process of just trusting, just letting go more and more. And then the more you start letting go and it proves itself, the parts of you that are holding on become more allergic to them, become more sensitive to them, more allergic to them. So you'll see, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I never finish a meal because I want to put half away in case I want it later. That's what is that? That's crazy scarcity, whatever it is. But as I started to go more and more subtly, I realized with me, where my lack of trust most reveals itself is in my relationship to time. And that is a tyranny. Because I think, what can I control in my day? There's so many things, there's so many variables. And all of us feel this way in some sense, where some of us maybe feel it less, but all of us have a sense like, holy cow, there's always more variables that I can control and more horrible things that are possible than I could even imagine, right? We're trying to keep them all at bay at one time. We're frantically doing that. And what's the one thing that I'll speak for myself that I feel I can control is time. I control, how do I spend the next half hour? How do I put my day in? How do I, like with us right now, how do I get the most out of this time we're spending together? So it is in our ability to seemingly control time that I feel the most control out of my life. And the more that I was letting go, because you let go with one hand, the other hand's going to try to grab even more, because that's we're in survival, right? And what I felt I was grabbing most on was in my relationship to time. And I watched this pathology, Scott. I'm ashamed to admit it. That I said I'm on the path of vulnerability, that if I have too much time on my hands, I start to freak out. And I have too little time on my hands, I start to freak out. That means I'm always freaked out. Okay? No matter what to say. And occasionally maybe, I'm the stopwatch that's right twice a day. I might get it just right. where at exactly this time I've finished exactly what I want to do, and there's no more time I got to worry about filling up, because most of us aren't comfortable in our own skin, and time freaks us out to not have anything to do with it. We feel we need to be productive and we need to move. And I know this is part of your genius too, in terms of transitioning people from being active out of compulsion versus being active out of having a goal and a sense of love of what they're doing. So if you start to look at your relationship with time, I realize I am at war with my innate state is to be at war with time, to see every unit of time, call it an hour, is a challenge, that I have to get it exactly right, not have too much, not have too little, use it right, second guess how I spent the last hour, worry about how I'm spending the next hour. And, maybe it's not this pronounced with everyone, but there's something like this. And if you realize that that's your whole life, I used to say it's like when I was with the college students, I said, it's like your roommate's socks. After a while, you don't smell them anymore. And someone walks in and goes, what's that smell? Right. And it's like our relationship to time is our roommate's socks. We are so used to being at war with time, and think about what that is. And we don't even know what's on the other side. One of the advantages of the 30 days I spent in isolation is I had all kinds of time, man, especially when I was fasting. You want to make time slow down. Lock yourself in a cabin and don't eat for a few days. You can live a lifetime in a week. But anyway, that was one of the few times that I could have that experience. But now the difference, what we all want, I think what we all want, and maybe I'm getting a little bit overgeneralized. I literally wake up every day with various amounts of gratitude that I got another day on this planet, and excitement about what I'm faced with. That's the old me. There you go. But what the opportunity, I got that today when I thought, I get to be with Scott, and then I'm going to go have lunch with my daughter and her boyfriend, and then I'm going to meet with, that's even if my calendar's full of junk I don't like, or it might not be my preferences. But imagine, if you will, what it'd be like to wake up every day, not because you're supposed to feel this way. Mm-hmm. See time as a gift rather than a curse.
Right.
And this is, again, I think it's part of the magic of what you bring to people through your work with time and as well. And maybe that's just a place for people to begin the inquiry is, what does it mean for me to just stop my war on time and let time, to the extent that it exists, and it's whatever it is, without getting philosophical about it, and allowing it to be my friend, and being an opportunity to really explore and enjoy my individuality and who I am, and all the people and things and puppy dogs and kitty cats in my life that I get to share it with.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so much in there, Dave, the way you describe it. And I've told you this, I think this analogy that you have of being at war with time is such a good, useful analogy, right? It's unfortunate that we feel that way, but it's such a useful, I think, an eye-opening analogy for people. I mean, I've talked about this with my clients, I've talked about this with other people, and I just think you explained it so well. The idea that, we're either like frantically overwhelmed and there's always so much to do and not enough time to do it. And the clock is our enemy. We're always racing against the clock, whether it's, our time at work or whether it's our whole day. And, it's the end of the day and I have to go to sleep sometime, and there's just so much left to do. People talk about, whatever it is, reverse procrastination, or, where basically you before you go to bed, you feel like you have to frantically do 10 things because you didn't do them earlier in the day, right? You're just not letting yourself relax until you do those things. And then there are the people who, are, as you put it, people freak out and panic when they feel like there's too much time. Right? When they feel like they don't have every moment of their day filled with something, and there's just some time where nothing's happening. And that really freaks people out. And that's a strange concept to me, because I joke around, like, I can be very productive, right? I can get a lot done. I can spend, 16 hours laser focused on a project and get it done. But if you want to hire somebody to get up in the morning, drink a cup of coffee, surf the internet for a few hours, and then take a nap, I'm your guy, right? Like I am really happy doing nothing. So this idea that people get really freaked out and tense when they feel like they don't have enough to do, it seems strange to me, but I know it's very real, and I've seen people that way and talked to people who are like that.
So I want to share a couple. I might be cutting you off, but I can't hold myself. There's two things that occur to me. That one is my father. God, I can't express my love and admiration, appreciation for him enough. But while he was in his body, he was a tough cookie, and it was all about productivity, and he couldn't stand to see us not working. So even like I remember we were playing badminton in our backyard, and if we missed a shot, we had to pick up 5 rocks from the yard and throw them out. And that was his way of cleaning the yard. Or if he was sitting in front of a TV, he was painting, reading a book, and so productivity became my love language. It became our love language. That's how I share I love you, Dad, because I'm productive. And all of us have something like this. And we don't realize, this is going back somewhere. And so much of, by the way, this is just a freebie for what it's worth, is so much of the idiosyncrasies that we have that we really disqualify ourselves for having you can trace it back to they were part of the love language we had before. So anyway, without getting to that, but fascinating, I found it to be very liberating in myself and the people that I work with. The other thing is just to share a moment with you. It occurred to me is that I notice, like, around dusk, whenever that is, in the summer, it might be 9:00, and winter, it might be, 4:30. I start to get a little panicky around time. And where all day I'm trying to get stuff done. In the evening, now I'm starting to freak out that I got this time together. And I just had this remembrance that when my father died, I went into a deep depression. When the evening came, I didn't know how I was going to make it to nighttime. I didn't know how I was going to make it to bedtime. Mm-hmm. And so, now I have 100 things I want to do at night, and I do them. But still, I'm still having this kind of panic, this residual panic. It's in my cells. We think it's just an idea. No, it actually seeps into your cellular stuff. So I don't want to get everyone psychoanalyzing, but just one, be tender with yourself around time. That's one thing I would just say. Don't, just because you're at war with time doesn't mean you have to be at war with yourself for being at war with time. Right. I like that. I'm going to write that one down. That was a cute. But anyway, so there's a certain tenderness of just loving. And from our time together, sometimes I get a ringing in my ears, which is like, pay attention. I'm getting a ringing in my ears right now for what it's worth. So I think the tenderness, and not just around time, but around everything, of just being tender with that little boy, with me, the 19-year-old boy, or the boy before, or whatever, as opposed to being at war with ourselves. And it doesn't matter. It's something we talked about before, about not being able to differentiate between, life and spirituality. Is I say in my work, especially with entrepreneurs, that whatever shows up in your life is going to show up in your business. Whatever shows up in your business show up in your life. It doesn't matter where you tackle it or where you do it. It's all going to be the same. It's all going to work both ways. And it's the same way. If you don't want to be at war with yourself, which is what we're really talking about, what a way to live. To just come into this life and just hate yourself and want to be somebody else and keep trying to beat yourself into being something else. Mm-hmm. You could go a lot of different ways, but you start with the things that you find yourself at war with, and you start finding what it means to have a peaceful, harmonious relationship. Yeah. And that will start seeping into your life. And as you start working with yourself, it'll start seeping into time. And that's the beautiful thing. It doesn't matter where you start. It just matters that you start.
Yeah. And Dave, I just want to repeat that because I think it's such an important element of this, and such an important realization is we talk about being at war with time, right? Either there's not enough time, or I feel like there's too much time. I'm afraid of the time where I feel like I have nothing to do. I'm not sure I'm going to get through that. Or the people who, so many people say, well, I spend all day doing things and I never feel like I got anything done actually, but what all this is it's not really that we're at war with time. We're at war with ourselves. That, realization to come out of it, it's not being at war with time, it's being at war with ourselves. And so how do we make peace with ourselves? And it's, what I find with a lot of these ideas, whether it's what we're talking about now, whether it's, your time management, productivity, procrastination, discipline, all these topics that fall under this umbrella, there's not necessarily one answer that works for everyone. And I think that's especially here in the 21st century. That's what we're so used to looking for. Like, oh, let me find the perfect app to download so I can just press one little thing on my screen and have it solve all my problems, right? And when you say to people, you really, if you're interested in making this change in your life, you might want to experiment a little bit and view this as an experiment, and not that you're going to go find the perfect answer to just plug in and play, but find out what works for you. Try something. Be open to the unknown. Be open to not knowing what the solution is. And so try this and see how that works. And maybe it's like a buffet. Maybe you take a few things from over here, and that helps open up your relationship with time, open up your relationship with yourself. Maybe it is being more compassionate toward yourself, forgiving yourself a little bit. Maybe it's gratitude practice, being grateful for what you have, being grateful for what you did today, right? Maybe it is connecting to your relationship with others, and how is what you're doing serving your family? How is it serving, the other people that are important to you in your life? There's so many different ways to approach this. And that's some of the really what I enjoy most about some of the conversations that I have with my clients, is not coming to them and saying, here's your answer, here it is, but rather helping them explore what's meaningful to them and what answers are going to be useful for them.
It's interesting as you're talking, and I think that's beautiful, and in so many different senses, and just you as the conduit for expressing that is just beautiful. And the experience, it's play. What we're talking about is play.
Play, yeah.
We're talking about playing. And why don't we play? Because we take ourselves so seriously, because we're in survival. We think if we play, and it's what we talked about before. You can play with still using best business practices. Mm-hmm. There's no reason that playfulness doesn't take into all the wisdom that you have. But you're talking about how do we play at life? And what occurred to me when you were talking is one of the first things that I do, and certainly with clients or whatever you call it, my fellow people I'm walking the path with, and also just strangers, if I feel that I'm not trespassing, is just correct their language. Kind of like the word medicine is I'm trying to, and I'm getting better at, or when I get to, all these different ways that say that they are inadequate as they are, and when they get to a better place, they will be better people. And that is just constant. It's like the donkey with a carrot 3 inches in front of its nose. It thinks it's never going to get the carrot. It's always going to be 3 inches in front of your nose. And so until one, and if I had the app to do it, the app is control. That's what you're talking about. We want to have that.
Right. We want control.
Right. And not like, no, you know what? I even realized I was working on my website and refining a few things, and I said, and the guy said, you have a process. And I said, I hate to use that word because I don't want to think like I can, there's a process. And I said, you know what, there are milestones. So I can look and say, okay, these are things that I've seen the people that I work with. And so if you want to call it a process, fine, but you're not going to be able to, it's not an algorithm that you're going to be able to get. And the kind of the back of the book answer to this, and it's such an individualized process that each of us takes to be able to appreciate. I can't even say to get there, because then I'm the donkey with a carrot again. That allows us to sink into the truth of the present truth of this is that you're enough as you are. You're the perfect version of yourself in this moment. I can't. A year ago, I'd have done this podcast. It wouldn't have been nearly as much fun. I'd have been much, there've been so many things that I would have done that if I looked at it now, I'd say I would do it differently. But that doesn't mean, and I'll do it again in a year from now, maybe not, because I'm just being authentic. But there's a greater degree of authenticity. You when you know better, you do better. That old expression. Mm-hmm. So it's like I didn't have this last year of life experience, including just the time with you, which has informed everything that I'm doing. Informed a lot of what I'm doing in my life. So anyway, as I can say, to begin with this, if you want to know where to begin, it begins with yourself, and often it begins with unfriending. That's a good word. I'm going to remember that one. Unfriending the voices that you think you need to drive you to success, that say, wait, I got to do more. I can do better. What about this? I should have done that. And you think that, and that's not your friend. Trust me, that is not your friend. I ran that experiment for 62 years. It's not my friend. You're my friend. I literally am my best friend right now. I call my wife my best friend. So it doesn't, we can look at it two ways. But anyway, there are two different ways you look at it. Yeah. So I would just encourage everyone, I think it gets back to the tenderness you talked about of recognizing the perfection that you are. That which created you would, however, I don't want to get cosmological on you. I don't care what you taught, whatever it is smarter than you. It has a much better idea of what you're here to, of what combination of factors you needed to be in order to do what is yours to do in exactly the way you do it, that no one else can do it the same way. And it takes a certain process to be able to sink into that. But that's the gift that life's given me, and it's the gift that I continue to bring to life, and that I know that you bring to others as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Two things you were talking about, Dave, that I'd like to just, and I know we're getting close towards the end of our time, but the idea of control, right? That's what so much of this comes down to, and so much of what we're trying to accomplish is control, because the unknown is scary, right? The unknown is very scary, and that's not saying that in a judgmental way, or saying it's just a natural human reaction to the unknown is a little bit of fear, or maybe a lot of fear. And so we respond to that by trying to control as much as we can. So there's wisdom that comes from recognizing what is useful for me to control. What can I control that will serve me and help me move closer to how I want to be? And what am I trying to control that's just, spinning my wheels, that it's just consuming my energy and consuming me by trying to control this thing, when really it's just an illusion. Having any sort of control at all in that situation is just an illusion, right? So being wise about what we can control and what we can't. And the other thing you mentioned that I think is so important to consider is play. And I know as soon as you start talking about being playful or playing, some practical minded people are going to roll their eyes a little bit and say, this isn't what like we need to be with this, all this, talk about play is not really useful if you want to really accomplish something, right? But the analogy I always use, and what I point out to people, you talk to old folks like us, right? Me sitting here with my gray hair, and they talk about, boy, these kids, they'll just pick up a phone, and 5 minutes later, the 3-year-old kid knows how to use the phone. And people always talk about how quickly kids learn technology and learn to use technology and master it. And how for, older folks like us, it's so difficult. Why is that? Well, I mean, people have probably written their dissertations for their doctorates on this. But one thing that I think is really important is if you and I are going to sit down and try to learn a new app or whatever, a new piece of software on our computer, we probably have something we want to do with it. We have a purpose in mind, right? There's something controlling our actions, and we're very narrowly focused. When a little kid sits down and picks up the phone, they're playing. And that's why they learn so fast, because there's not a set agenda. There's not this, kind of cement mentality on the outcome. It's just, well, what does this do? What does this do? What does this do? Right. And then they pretty soon they're mastering this iPhone or this iPad or this app. And so how do we learn from that? And I always encourage, some of what I do on the side occasionally is I help people learn to use computers better. I help people learn new technology. And I always encourage people to, if you really want to learn this, play with it. Set aside for a while whatever outcome you want, and just play around with this. Just click on things and see what happens. And if you accidentally delete your whole file, who cares? You're just playing. And where I'm going with this is, how do we apply that same mindset to other aspects of our life, like our relationship with time? And how do we recognize that being playful, that playing can actually, I don't even want to use the term productive because they sound like they're contradictory, but they're really not. Because by being playful, we actually can master these aspects of our lives and make them serve us the way we want them to, just like the little kid who masters the iPhone because they're playing with it.
So there's so much there. I can give you data points. And the first data point is just like, I've been doing a lot of podcasts, and I love doing podcasts. And by the way, I've chosen that medium because I don't have to, I don't want to sell anymore. I don't want to sell myself. I just like to talk like this. And anybody that hears it, oh, that's guy, I like to work with that guy. That's great. But I get these podcasters and they send me lists of 20 questions and I just laugh at them. And they want to script it beforehand. And I think it's your thing. Yeah. To me, it's like, when I was a little kid and I was driving a car with my dad and I had a little toy steering wheel and I thought I was driving a car. You want to feel good, drive it. That's fine. Makes you feel good. That's great. But I'm playing with you now. We're playing. It doesn't mean it doesn't get serious, doesn't get deep. I'm not sharing sad things about my past. It's still all play. And then the other thing I was thinking is that people, why do people, I was reading an article in the Atlantic about these oligarchs in Russia, and why are they turning on Putin, right? Not turning, but at least griping, because they can't play at their villa in Italy and they can't go shop in Switzerland. So all the work they're doing is so they can play. And if you think about it, it's like, oh, even the people say play. It's like, no, you're putting it into a category. And then you wonder, so you value play, but you're wondering why you can't get out of the work compulsive wartime mindset when it's time to play, because now you're bringing that war to the play. Right. So it's not something you can compartmentalize. Mm-hmm. And the last thing that I would add, and you and I have talked about this, I'm quoting Panache Desai, who's just been a tremendous boon and friend and, whatever. And for my wife, we listen every morning. Is he talks about the importance of consistency, commitment, and repetition. And he's the king of play. Mm-hmm. But still, there's something about that consistency, commitment, and repetition that lets us know we're trustworthy. Mm-hmm. It lets us trust ourselves, because we know I got a podcast with you at 9:45 this morning. I'm going to be there. Right. I'm going to adjust my day to make sure that, because that's what I do. I'm consistent. I'm trustworthy. So it doesn't mean there's not consistency, commitment, and repetition in your life. It's not an either or. And I was thinking, even this morning, I mentioned to you, I think before we got on, that I got a beautiful email from someone that interviewed me in Australia, has a very successful company helping other companies exit their companies. And he wrote me an email that I didn't have time to address yesterday. And I thought, well, I'll get to it. And I just woke up at 6 this morning and I got out of bed and came down and wrote that email, because I just was not going to feel comfortable till I did it. Would I would rather stay in bed for? Maybe, but it doesn't mean that I don't drag my sorry ass out of bed at 6 a.m. to write an email that needs to be written. But I wrote it playfully. That's all. I wrote it playfully, and then I walked my dogs and played with them. And then I'm on here playing with you. And I'm going to keep playing. And for what it's worth, I think this, again, the value, so the gift that you and I give by just being ourselves is establishing models where you can play at life and still be dependable, still be an adult, still be a good husband and coach and father, or whatever, any other roles that we take on, and still play at life and enjoy it. And I'm going to tell you one last story, and then I guess we can go, but I can't help but tell it because it was such a dumb moment for me about playing at life. Is I was on a call with a client, and then we were going to schedule our next meeting, and I pull up my Google Calendar and I see my calendar is just full of new appointments. And I thought, well, that's because I just had launched something. I thought, oh, wow, this can't, even though I say I don't sell, I like it when my something works, make a plan, work a plan. So I was just so happy. And that happiness just bled over into the next. I had more clients, and I had led the Commonwealth meeting, and I just was so on fire, and that fire was such a gift to everyone. And then I said, Julie, come here, look at all these new things I have. And she looks at, no, none of those are new clients. They're all other stuff. And so it was just in my head. But the illusion that I had made me happy, which was a gift to everyone else. Your playfulness is the gift to the world. Mm-hmm. And if you put it on external circumstances, that's not play. That's self-reward, or that's some taking the burden off for a little bit. Right. But just if you won't play for yourself, play it for the people you love and who want to love you more. All right, I'm done.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Dave. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it, right? It's our gift that we can give to others. Playfulness. Yes. And it's perfectly possible to have the structures in our lives that serve us, the Google Calendar and the planned out day and the time boxing. And yet within those structures, be playful. Be playful. Yeah.
I love it. And I'm also fortunate to have a stepdaughter who I adore. And she just periodically comes in and says, Dave, get your head out of your ass. Because I stopped playing. And when she sees me playing long enough, she'll tell me to come on, let's go, let's play. Come on, let's play.
Excellent. Well, Dave, I think we will stop our wonderful conversation here. We could certainly continue doing this for a few more hours, but I think this is a good point to stop. I'm so grateful to you for coming on this show today. This is very special. This is the first episode of this podcast that we're recording. And I'm super excited about how it went. And I'm super excited to share this with everyone and to do more of these. So I look forward to seeing you again. I look forward to doing some more collaboration with you. And I hope the rest of your day is wonderful. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you. And again, I would just encourage, if you hear something that you like here and there's more, it strikes you in some way, move while we've created a field. Scott and I say authenticity is contagious. And so you caught the contagion of authenticity just by listening to this. Make a move, whatever it is, whatever that looks like for you, just make a move towards authenticity. And I would say that Scott is just a great resource. And I would encourage anyone who is hearing this and hear anything that strikes them to follow up and take advantage of that. By the way, in case I haven't said already, I never go more than an hour without telling everyone how much I love my wife. Greatest gift that life could have given me. And the reason I can talk with such conviction and ease and playfulness around unimaginability is that she is a woman beyond my imaginings, has brought love to me beyond my imaginings. And I wish that for everyone in whatever form is most important to you. So that's my blessing.
That's wonderful, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you would like to know more about Dave and what he does, please visit his website, davegold.com. You can also email him. His address is dave@davegold.com. If you enjoyed our conversation, please join Dave and me live in Zoom on March 20th, 2022 for our first day of spring resolution reboot, aligning and attuning with the season of renewal. This will be a free 1-hour gathering where we will talk about living a life of shameless idealism paired with unyielding accountability. For more information about this free event, please visit my website, scottmillercoaching.com. We hope to see you there. Please remember to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done that already, and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our podcast. We would love to have you join us for more episodes.